Welcome back, kiddies. It's your old pal Diablo, back once again and in your midst. It's the Netherworld Videozine. Today we're going to discuss something labeled as extreme horror. Now, extreme horror could mean a lot of different things to different people. And there was a time in the early 2000s when this extreme label got put on a lot of things. Extreme sports drinks. Just everything was labeled extreme. I guess it was just a way of putting a fucking exclamation point on something and just letting you know that it was balls to the wall, that it was over the top. And why not horror? Because as far back as the early 80s, you had many movies coming out that skipped past the MPAA ratings board and got released unrated. And these were very over the top, gory, fucked up films. So you had movies, big movies, and I would say big. Dawn of the Dead, Maniac, Evil Dead, Reanimator, and bringing it back from Dawn of the Dead to Day of the Dead, the darkest day of horror the world has ever known, released in the summer of 1985, unrated and outrageous. It was beautiful. To witness these movies on the big screen, I mean, you could say it was a religious experience, you know? Minds were blown, and the seeds were planted for perhaps a ever-growing thirst or hunger for gore and quests for filth. In the mid-'80s, when I was in high school, and the VHS boom, this is when a lot of movies came out direct to video that skipped a theatrical release and were able to be put out unrated, uncut, amidst all the other mainstream movies, you know. And I'm talking about the horror section here. I'm not talking about fucking, mainstream, action and fucking drama movies. I'm talking fucking horror. But with the VHS boom, you had movies like Lucio Fulci's Zombie, The Gates of Hell, stuff like Dr. Butcher, MD, Buried Alive, aka Beyond the Darkness, or Bu Omega, coming out right to video with beautiful big boxes and cool artwork and shit like that to catch your eye and pique your curiosity. I saw a lot of movies for the first time that I didn't get to see in the theater. And, at that point, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I saw that for the first time on a video rental. A lot of other, seminal gore films, let's say, that I won't, get into. But it was at that time in 91 and 92 when we started the Netherworld fanzine, that the three of us began, seeking out uncut and unrated versions of movies that we had seen previously that we knew, were cut. The versions that we got to see, from the video store, stuff like Creepers, Unsane, Seven Doors of Death, the Grim Reaper, we went out and we sought out the uncut versions of these movies. So we got to see Argento's, Phenomena, Tenebrae, Lucio Fulci's The Beyond, Joe D'Amato's classic Anthropophagus, just to name those previous films that I mentioned the American titles for, and those cut video cassettes. These movies are the ones that we sought out through tape trading and purchasing movies from reputable sources. Getting these uncut prints was reason to rejoice. Getting a hold of Cannibal Holocaust, the Guinea Pig series, George Buttgerite's Necromantic, and Necromantic 2. These movies we were seeing for the first time, and many of them blew our minds. And these I would consider extreme horror. When you get into the arty kind of socio-political glossy films, I don't know how to describe them other than that they were fucked up. Seeing Salo, the 120 Days of Sodom, it wasn't an enjoyable experience, but it was extreme. Men Behind the Sun, not fun, but fuck. In a Glass Cage, now that's not a nice movie. Where do you go from there for any more extreme? Well, you seek out those Faces of Death films, and many of them are, supposedly fake. But the real death experiences, death scenes 1 and 2, the Traces of Death series. How much more extreme can you get than real life horror and gore? Dead bodies, accidents, animal killings. Animals killing people. There's some people killing animals, and that's fucked up. I never like that kind of shit in anything. But those early days send us on our quest for filth and finding these over-the-top, crazy-ass movies, But moving on, and something very different than what I normally do with the Videozine, in that I don't waste valuable airtime or time period. I don't waste time on things that I don't like. I like to speak on and rave about the things that I do like and enjoy and love. And so, doing something completely different, I'm going to talk about briefly the films of Lucifer Valentine. Now, I saw his 2012 film Black Metal Veins first. That was my introduction to Lucifer Valentine. And Black Metal Veins is a supposed documentary about a bunch of drug addicts. You've got a bunch of junkies basically being filmed, getting high, shooting heroin, smoking crack, taking pills, crushing up and snorting pills, and just being fucked up through the course of this film as they talk to the camera about their lives and how much they enjoy being fucking junkies. And part of me thought that it seemed a little sensationalized, and maybe I'm calling bullshit. Some of it was real, obviously, the drugs and them ingesting all these various drugs, very real. They were getting fucked up while they were making this movie, but I think some of the situations may have been, like set up and stuff. And there's a couple of scenes in there of a couple of girls getting raped while they're fucked up, obviously not in any way, shape, or form able to give consent. That I think it's criminal that they should be captured on film and put out. It's fucked up, man. It's fucked up. So Black Metal Veins is my introduction to this Lucifer Valentine person. He is very well known for his Vomit Gore trilogy. And these movies are, I guess we could say that they're popular with a certain demographic of people. And it's very interesting to me that these things shown throughout the Vomit Gore trilogy could have a fan base. And I'm just going to talk very briefly about the 3 films in the Vomit Gore trilogy and just touch upon just the tip of the iceberg. The first film in the series from 2006 is titled Slaughtered Vomit Dolls. And it stars the young lady named Amira LaVey as Angela Aberdeen. Angela is a bulimic hooker and former stripper who, in the early scenes, is shown being slapped around and roughed up, and she offers herself to Satan. So there's the beginnings of a Satanism theme that does run throughout the series, but it is never really fully explored. And word is that this Lucifer Valentine himself is, or was, or portrays himself as a Satanist. As she's being slapped around and choked, she talks to the camera about herself. And this is done very disturbingly, as a lot of it is in slow motion. It's intercut with scenes of little Amira LaVey as a child, performing for the camera. She says she's going to sing a song, and she wants to be an entertainer. And I'm sure she didn't see it at that point that she was going to be a fucking stripper and a fucking hooker and a junkie and an all-around fucked up person. This is all intercut and edited with weird music and sound effects and scenes of the cameraman torturing and executing women. So there is a lot of violence towards women. And to me, this speaks volumes about the director and the person responsible for the film, that I don't think has any real regard for women. And whatever reason that is, I don't know and I don't care. But just running down the scenes of extreme horror, if you want to call it that, but we'll just call it vomit gore bullshit. A lot of scenes of puking. A lot of them. A lot of puking. You have a woman's eyes stabbed with a screwdriver and pulled out. You have a girl that must be an amputee, but there's a very graphic arm amputation. And when she's shown afterwards with, the prosthetic piece on the stump, you could tell she doesn't have a fucking arm. So a real amputee was used. There's this fat guy with glasses that he does the amputation, and then he uses the severed arm to stick the fucking hand in his mouth and makes him puke and shit, makes himself fucking throw up all over the goddamn place. He pukes into a beer mug and drinks his own puke, and then fucking, pukes more. And it's a little fucking excessive, and it doesn't help further the storyline of Angela Aberdeen at all. There's a scene where the top of a guy's head is sawed off, and the brains are scooped out and eaten and vomited on. The fucking open cranium is vomited into and stuff. And this actor, I wouldn't call him an actor. I would call him a piece of shit waste of human skin. But this guy is one of the stars of the film. He's a puker. That's not a talent to be proud of. The second film in the series from 2008 is Regurgitated Sacrifice. See, regurgitated. Not regurgitated, but regurgitated. Because of the puking. See, that's clever, right? So Angela's story continues as she goes on to, talk about her childhood and running away from home. And these scenes do continue the storyline of Angela. But a lot of the rest really doesn't. And again, just makes me think, like, what the fuck? What is this? What does this all mean? The Soska sisters, who have done several movies of their own. Dead Hooker in the Trunk, American Mary with Catherine Isabel from Ginger Snaps. They did a remake of David Cronenberg's Rabid, which, being a fan of Rabid, I don't think there was any fucking, there was no real need to remake Rabid. But the Soska sisters, these two twins, joined the cast of this second film, billed as the Black Angels of Hell. They appeared for the first time, joined at the Skull. And again, the editing, the slow-mo, the music, the sound effects, it's all used to optimum effect to create a disturbing environment while watching this poor excuse for a film. They are subsequently separated by a knife, and it's very gory, and there's blood and brain pumping out of the head wound, and again, some good effects. To a certain extent, I mean, comparative to Peter Jackson's, Bad Taste or Brain Dead, aka Dead Alive. as it's not realistic gore, but it is gore for gore's sake and meant to be extreme. So I'm left kind of scratching my head and wondering how the Soska sisters got involved in this. Amira LaVey returns as Angela Aberdeen, and appears in the beginning pregnant, very visibly pregnant. The mind kind of wonders, like, well, what happened to the child? Do I want to know? Should this person be procreating? Who's the father? All very disturbing thoughts. The Soska sisters engage in lesbian sex with Angela, Amira LaVey, and another girl in another scene, where they get her just drunk. They're feeding her shots of, like, I don't know, looks like absinthe, like they're doing, shots of absinthe. They're, the Soska sisters engaged in lesbian incest, seemingly simulated, but I mean, no, they're like fucking making out with each other and sucking titties and stuff. I don't know. I just question, how did they get involved, and why did they let this go out there? Did I lose respect for Jen and Sylvia Soska? A little, yeah, I did, because I kind of dug them and I liked their movies, but am I passing judgment? Am I being a dick, or a prude, or a pussy? Just going down a list, because I don't want to talk about the movie any more than I already have. So the girl that they get drunk gets disemboweled and slapped and beaten with her own intestines, which are then used. They stuff them in her mouth to make her puke. So girl is disemboweled and choked with her own intestines to make her puke. Now, it seems to me that she should have been dead already. So the puking is unrealistic and stupid. There's a lot of scenes of girls pissing, and that's aside from living with a girl and being in the bathroom at the same time while she's pissing, it wasn't like I was fucking looking at her piss come out, so it's not something that I ever saw or wanted to see, not even in the pages of Penthouse magazine or Hustler. I didn't really linger on those images, and so seeing girls pissing, that doesn't do anything for me. I didn't like it. There's a couple girls puking on each other, very excessively puking on each other. One girl that gets tortured and beaten has a tarantula sewn into her pussy. And that poor fucking tarantula. To me, that's animal cruelty. The same girl is then decapitated by the fat guy with the glasses. I'm going to call him Fat Elvis. He decapitates her. He stabs her eyes out. He pukes on the head. He scalps her. The head. This is the fucking decapitated head. The skull is, he cracks that open and scoops out the brains, which of course, you know, he eats and fucking pukes out, and he pukes in the fucking in and on the fucking decapitated head. Amira LaVey, who portrays Angela Aberdeen, and I've said that a couple times already, appears to give a blowjob. And so this, I mean, it's already, you know, pornographic. Just the nudity and just the vulgarity and the disgustingness of all this stuff, you know, it's pornography, you know. Not good pornography, you know, not the stuff that I watch on Pornhub. That, it sure as hell ain't that. But so Angela appears to give a blowjob, but then this is obviously a prosthetic penis because it ejaculates blood on her face and in her mouth in what I will call the blood cum money shot. Anne-Marie LaVey, to me, is a very sad creature. And to say that she's portraying a character now in this second film, to me, a lot of it comes across in her dialogue and what's written, if anything was written for her to say, as I feel aspects of her real life are discussed. Disgust, not disgust. As if from her character's viewpoint, but having read an interview with the director, he divulges much of Angela, the actress's, real life, as if it's for him to divulge, as he was in a dom sub relationship with her, and basically forced her to do whatever he said in real life. So either this is all fabricating Amira LaVey, the actress, her real life, or it's just creating the aura of the character of Angela Aberdeen. Either way, it's fucked. Either way. The third movie in the series, Slow Torture Puke Chamber, from 2010. This one's interesting because it starts with a disclaimer from the actress Hope Likens, who portrays the alternate role of Angela Aberdeen. Now, Amira LaVey still appears in the film as Angela, and it's intercut between the two of them. But Hope Likens reads a disclaimer at the beginning of the movie. And this disclaimer, it just comes across as being read, you know. She's a better actress when she's on camera and actually speaking, unless she was actually doing video confessional type stuff and it's more real than we know, because the lines are blurred in all of these movies now. It comes across as being read and sounds as if it was written by the director. who, after all, I mean, paid her to be in this movie. If he's this dominant personality, and they talk about Hope talks about a mutual artistic collaboration, and goes into this disclaimer. It sounds a lot like maybe Lucifer Valentine caught some shit for regurgitated sacrifice and had to make a disclaimer to cover his ass. And I'll get into a little bit more of that. But let's just run down the greatest hits of Slow Torture Puke Chamber, and not talk about the movie too much more than that. Okay, so Hope's version of Angela details what bulimia means to her, and of the sexual abuse she endured as a child from her father. And like I said, much of that kind of comes across as Hope likens really talking about her life and what she's become, because she must be bulimic. She pukes fucking buckets throughout the goddamn movie, and it looks as though it's something that she's done quite often. At one point, she pukes blood into several shot glasses and drinks them and pukes some more. She eats crickets on a cake, real crickets on a cake. In a bathtub, she masturbates with a crucifix. Yeah, literally sticks a crucifix in her cooch. And she pukes blood all over herself. Now, the whole crucifix masturbation scene that is intercut between the two actresses playing Angela Aberdeen, recreated in a similar bathtub to mirror, are hinted at in regurgitated sacrifice. We unfortunately see it play out in Slow Torture Puke Chamber. There are scenes of Amira's Angela pissing, a lot of her pissing everywhere, in the sink, in bowls, in cups, and at one point sticking her legs up and pissing in her own face. In another scene, she gets her face pissed on. She's in a bathtub, and either the director or another talented actor on set pisses on her face, and the lingering effect is that I myself, when I take a piss now, I see Amira LaVey's face. Very strange. A very unattractive fat girl gets bound and beaten and has her tampon pulled out and gets her face slapped with it. And then is bound in a bathtub and puked on. A pregnant woman is disemboweled by Fat Elvis, and the fetus is taken out, and he plays with it, and he pukes on it, and he cuts it up, and he eats it. He puts parts in a blender and drinks it, and pukes all over the fucking place. And that's his gimmick, I guess. He's Fat Elvis, the puke guy. I didn't bother seeing the prequel from 2015, Black Mass of the Nazi Sex Wizard is the title. I started to watch it, and again, the actress that's in the film did a long disclaimer on camera, and again, it comes off as being read. She's reading the disclaimer, and I still think it was written by Lucifer Valentine, because he paid for the fucker, you know, over the course of the several years that they made the film. You know, he was paying the bills. And how does he get these people to make these movies and get a girl like Amira LaVey, her real name is Brandy Petrie, to basically, you know, be his submissive and do whatever he says over the course of these films? I'm thinking that she was taken advantage of, manipulated, and abused, and ultimately exploited through these films that have a fan base, and people that herald these movies as extreme horror, art, vomit, gore bullshit. That's what I call it. Interestingly enough, the research that I did afterwards, after enduring, not witnessing, but enduring these films, for review's sake, you know, because after the August Underground films and trying to understand the allure and why people like them, the research I did into Lucifer Valentine and his films uncovered a lot of allegations of abuse and misconduct and just being an all-around piece of shit. I'm going to include in the description of this video several of the videos that I saw here on YouTube that document or expose many of these allegations that I read about and that have been researched and talked about other places. So when I said that I was going to talk about something that I didn't like, I'm going on record and saying I don't like the Vomit Gore trilogy from Lucifer Valentine. I don't like Black Metal Veins and what was attempted by it. And I don't like Lucifer Valentine himself. This is Diablo. You've been watching the Netherworld Videozine. And we'll see you next time.
The following feature is one of the most violent films ever made. There are at least 24 scenes of barbaric torture and sadistic cruelty graphically shown. If the presentation of disgusting and repulsive subject matter upsets you, please do not view this film. They made one mistake. They got caught. And when you get caught in this jungle, there's no bail and no jail.
Get off my feet, motherfucker! Don't be crazy, Rudy. He'll kill you. He'll kill you.
That's completely nuts. For what they've done. Make them die. Slowly.